Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. Not for the first time in the last few weeks, we are talking all matters BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby. As always, I'm joined by the exiled dub Tommy Lyons from his Yawl base, and we are also joined by the child, Kevin Hennessy, who was christened that by Damien Lonigan. Don't go blaming me, okay? Kevin Hennessy and myself. Well, we've done plenty of chatting over the last few weeks, and we're about to do a little bit more because we are looking back at four wonderful quarterfinals of the BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby and two wonderful semi-finals coming up. Kevin, it's really coming to a boil.
It is. Like, where do you start? You know, Coulivan Hoffa, breathtaking again. But like I said to you, there was plenty in behind him that really took your eye the other night. And when the semi-final draw came out, you know, like, I know a couple of lads even on this call have Hoffa back at decent prices, but the draw has really thrown the whole thing completely wide open. And from a neutral point of view, which I am now, don't have a runner in it, and just looking on as an enthusiast, I can't wait. I couldn't have wished for better semi-finals, to be honest. And I think regardless of whatever six qualify for the final, we're going to have a cracker. But let's enjoy the looking back at the quarterfinals first and looking forward to the semi-finals, because they're going to be two unbelievable races on Saturday night.
Yeah, Tommy, Kevin said there he wouldn't have changed the semi-finals. No, I might have changed a couple of them around, but we'll get to that in time. Tommy, four wonderful displays. You were in Shelbourne Park on Saturday night. It makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference. You kind of realize how much you miss it when you're not there often enough. You kind of get a sense of what happens. I know there are the odd time you'll see something on a video that you mightn't have spotted, but you get a sense of what's happening. I think a lot better when you see it in real life when you're there to. And we have a good view. I was standing behind you in the commentary box, and you have a good view from there above it, over the top of what's happening. So you see a lot of stuff. Some fabulous displays. Some I thought maybe shaded disappointing, and then we thought, you know what, Coulivan Hoffa has to be short to win the Derby, and all of a sudden he gets the worst possible draw with the 12 that are left in the competition. So it's just it keeps it interesting right to the line. As somebody said to me yesterday when I met, and who wouldn't even be what I would call a big greyhound racing supporter, they go now and then said. It just never disappoints. This competition, they tune in every year for it. It just never disappoints, and that's what we have again in the semi-finals and obviously potentially a final.
Yeah, I'm not sure where I said it recently, but there's just the format of a derby, be it English or Irish. The fact that you start off with such a big number, the 3 to qualify, the 6 weeks. There's no room for errors. You don't just have to be brilliant in terms of your racing ability. You also have to be tough, versatile, and a little bit lucky. And that's why there's never been a bad Derby final or a bad Derby winner. Yes, we've had better Derby winners in other years, but there's never been what you'd call a bad Derby winner. And it looks that's going to be the case again this year. Let's get into the quarterfinals, because in order to look forward, you might as well take a glance backwards. And the opening heat on Saturday night, well, it looked red hot on paper, but it ended up being two sort of separate contests. Ballymacfin hit the lids, got to the front. Skywalker Barry and Gort Kelly Nestor went up second and third, and that's basically how it stayed. Romeo Magical completely missed it. Tulla Graven was fourth into the corner, never really got his chance to shine, and Bocco's Buds had missed it. And for a dog with blistering early speed, that seems to rarely miss it. It was curtains from the early yards. But Ballymacfin, a good winner. Tommy, you were sort of scratching your head a little bit after the run. You didn't know how to take, in the sense where he'd gone to the front. It looked like he was going to win 3 or 4 lengths, but in the end, really had to dig in to hold a resurgent Skywalker Barry, who turned back the clock somewhat.
Yeah, this is a really funny one, and everybody take their own angle on it before next week and make a decision on it. Like, if I had to say, without really wanting to spend too much time referencing the semi-finals, if I had to say that of the 12 dogs, if you were to price them just to qualify, he'd probably be favoured in the 12 dogs to qualify. Now, that's not to say he will qualify, and that's not to say he'll win his heat next week, but just the makeup is brilliant. But it's the same draw as it was the other night, right? He's in trap 1. And I just said to you afterwards, Dean, I said, is there a bias in the track? Is the track a little bit slow? Is there something about it that's not right? Now, I've watched the heat numerous times since, and all the dogs charged traps and reset themselves and went again. And maybe there's a little bit of mitigation in that. Maybe there is, okay? But like Skywalker Barry, one of the things I think I said last week was that he wasn't really driving into the first or third bends in previous rounds. And I thought, do you know what, maybe that's him back to his best, and it was great to see. But then I watched the race again over and over again. And again, he'd probably lost his race down to third bend, where Ballymacfin maybe went on again and took a couple of lengths out of him because he was easing slightly into the third bend. But then Skywalker Barry ran on again and Ballymacfin was all out. So do you look ahead and say, well, Ballymacfin's a young dog, he's going to improve, he can do it right again next week? Or do you say, maybe is he getting a little bit tired? It's a lot for a very young dog. Like, there's so many angles you can look at it. So I came away, I scratching my head. The fact that they seem to charge traps might, as I say, that might be some little factor in it. But I no longer know where I stand with Ballymacfin. He's a dog who breaks brilliantly from the inside, which he has next week, but he does move a little bit middle as well. Yeah. Which adds a little bit of a factor to the heat next week.
It does, but it also sort of nearly works in his favour because he tends to hold up his other rivals. Kevin, you have a slightly different twist on it. I know from Saturday night, Ballymacfin did everything right out front. Like, it is worth remembering, he has a 29.32 and a 29.36 in his card, so he's always capable of doing that run again. But the 29.51 was some way back, considering he did his fastest sectional of a 3.42.
Yeah, look, I just really like him. I think as a November puppy, I know that. I suppose I know exactly what Tommy is saying, and everything he's saying is spot on. Like, the clock would sort of throw you a little bit. I'm not the biggest clock person in the world. I prefer sort of, it's a quarter final of a derby. You're not going to win a quarter final of a derby, and not be a reasonably good greyhound. And the way he did it, he flashed from boxes. Tommy's right. He does take a step right out of boxes. Now, he's got away with it, I suppose, a couple of times, that he has hampered his rivals and he's come off the best of it. But every time a dog does that, you run the risk. When that bump comes together, remember one time only, came out on the wrong side of it there recently enough too. So it can sometimes go again, yeah. But Skywalker Barry, like, in fairness to the dog, I think his running style, we've talked an awful lot about Explosive Boy and how his running style has changed. Skywalker Barry is another one. And he's a dog, I think, he's come into this derby completely under the radar. Like, his form hasn't been up to his own standards in a long time. But if you look at his 4 clocks in the derby so far, he done 30 seconds in the first round, then he done 29.90, then he done 29.80, and last week he done 29.64 or something.
It is worth pointing out that there was talk that he was rushed back for the derby, so they had a little problem with him. He got over it, but in terms of picking up fitness, he's probably doing it as the competition unfolds.
He definitely is, and like he definitely needs to take another step or two to win the derby, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying he can't, because he's in a semi-final where if he did trap, like you never lose your trapping ability. You might lose the yard to the corner, but he can trap much better than he has so far. And if he did trap and turned in a position and improved again, like, he's not completely out of this. In relation to the winner in Finn, I just really like him. He's a November puppy who, to me, the race just looked like I think that the Dowlands potentially freshened this lad up. Like, on paper, when you looked at this heat, it was an absolute cracker. It was a minefield, and he needed to get the start right. If Finn didn't trap in that quarter final on paper before the race, you'd say potentially he's out. He's not going to come from behind Magico. Budsid looked a certain leader and going to be doing 29.40 on the bunny. Tully Graven, if he turned behind him, he wouldn't have passed him. And you throw in the likes of Gord Kelly Nexter and Skywalker Barry in there as well. So it wouldn't surprise me if they just freshened him up to try and get that burst out of the box, which he did. He definitely tied up coming home. In the last 10 strides, he drifted off into Skywalker Barry as well. So, like, 29.59 tying up, everything points to me that if he stays a little bit better, which we know he can, there's a 29.30 run in him from the inside, potentially from the front as well, which is vitally important. And I suppose I'll let you go back on to talk about Gord Kelly Nester in a second, because I know you love him and we can't leave him out either.
Yeah, well, just one more thing there about Ballymacfin. We're also forgetting that he's trained by a genius, Liam Dowling. How many times over the last couple of years, Tommy, on this forum have we, just absolutely glowed about the man? What he can do with a racing greyhound is pretty phenomenal. And I know you can say that for many of the, in fact, all of the trainers that are still left in this year's derby. Like, it's a stellar lineup in terms of the men involved. Gord Kelly Nester. And women, of course, yeah. Excuse me. When I say men, I just, that's just the old school in me. Just came out. Gord Kelly Nester for Andy Murray. Just just a wonderful, wonderful tracker. By all accounts, we thought he was probably done and dusted this year, and then produced that run behind Balnabola Ed. Last week, he was slightly fortuitous, got the lovely run at the third bend to go second. But again, a thoroughly deserving qualifier the other evening, did everything right, and he's only beaten he's beaten a length and a half. Yeah, he's beaten a length and a half, behind Ballymacfin, who's up there second, third favourite for the Derby.
Yeah, you're right. Gorkale Lester's a smashing dog. He's a length away from a Derby final last year. We kind of assumed that, like, you know what, that was probably his peak, and yet the clocks would say recently that he's in his best ever form, and it's a credit to Connections to get him this sort of form. The race was funny in the sense that Romeo Magico clearly wasn't himself. Bacchus Buds had left it at traps. Again, that might go back to the charging traps, I don't know. And Tullygraven had what looked a very tricky draw, and it just never Tullygraven is a really, really smart greyhound. And when he got the inside and was able to get a bit clear early, showed what he's capable of. Just the lack of experience. It's a huge.
It is worth pointing out. He's only had the 6 races prior to Saturday night, so you can forgive him.
It's crazy. It's crazy how good he is after 6 races, and even to get to quarterfinals of a Derby. It just, things didn't go right for him. Had he been in Trap 1, we probably would have been fancying him to win the heat, maybe. And maybe he would have, do you know what I mean? But just a little bit of inexperience when you have to do something different, or there's a greater demand on you. It just, at the moment, he wasn't ready for it. That's all, I think.
Yeah. Kevin, Gorkelly Nester.
Yeah, sure. What can you say about him? Like, I was talking to Andrew, I think it could have been before the first round. I think when Tullygraven had popped out and won, and I was talking to Andrew, and he was sort of nudging me, going, "Look at his last line of form," sort of thing. You know, that Gorkelly had beaten him in the Limerick qualifier, and he felt that Gorkelly Nester hadn't lost a step, like to Tommy's point, you know, that thinking maybe last year was his peak. He fully believed that the dog was every bit as good as he was last year, and the run behind Hoffa is definitely the run that stands out for him so far in the Derby. Like, that was some running that he done that night in defeat, and especially with the makeup of the race of the 2 semi-finals, like, you give him a live chance of making the final. And listen, I think with Atalacazette gone out at this stage, I suppose if I was to cheer on one of the storyline runners, like, if you are impartial, you haven't had a bet, and you're not going to have a bet, and you're looking for a dog to follow, you could do far worse than Gorkelly Nester. You know, like, he really is the dream story, connections and stuff like that. And given his age, he's the old stager that's left, and he's been there, done it completely under the radar. Any price you want, he probably still is about it. 33 to 1 shot. I don't know what price he is at the moment.
I think he's still about 50s with yourselves, yeah.
50s, like, so, you know, I'd love to see him go through. And regardless, it's been a great Derby campaign for him again. And it just goes to show, you know, these dogs, that Derby dogs, like, that sometimes just the time of year and everything just lines up for him, and he's won. So, yeah, I'll be cheering him on Saturday night.
Yeah, I think most people will be cheering on. Like, he's nearly like whether you have a bet or not, or if you have your own dog, he's sort of the one that you like, your second team, you know, that sort of way. The 3 that went out, Romeo Magico, Tullygraven, and Bacchus Buds, so that was suggested, just didn't go right from the other night. Romeo Magico just charged into that third bend, but seemed to put an ease on at the third bend. I'm sure he'll be given a little break. He's had a hard campaign. He's won an English Derby, and he owes them absolutely nothing, it's safe to say, already at this stage of his career. He's only just gone 3 years of age. I'm sure we'll see him back, hopefully, for the likes of the Ledger a little bit later in the year. Tullygraven, of course, only at the start of his career, and Bacchus Buds, I'm sure, will continue to contest at the very highest level. You'd imagine a Laurels and Ledgers potentially on his radar. On to the second heat, and here we saw Coulivanny Hoffa produce another statement type performance. Tommy, you know, he had obviously posted the 1680, the 29-13 run in the third round, was chinned by a head last week after a protracted battle with Callaway Pro-Am. I felt he lost nothing in defeat. We suggested last week that the clock was down to the fact that they were just getting each other's way around the bottom 2 bends, and just, you know, when they go head to head like that, you can account for that. The other night was just evidence that he remains perhaps the dog to beat. We'll talk about the draw a little bit later on, but on Saturday night, this was your first time to see him in flesh in this Derby, and I got the sense from you there was that whoosh factor. Just wow, that's what you need to see in the flesh.
Yeah, I loved it. I'm not on him anti-post or anything like that. I would love to be holding the tickets that you're holding with him now. He's a funny one because he could potentially be a bigger price for the semi-final heat than he is outright to win the Derby, and there is a bit of logic behind that just because of the draw. But I love. You know what? We know we talked about it last week, and we were unsure about the race last week and all that. The one thing I did love about him when he got beaten the previous week was he looked like a genuine dog. Like he was genuinely trying his best. Like everywhere he tried to get by Callaway Pro-Am found a bit extra. And credit to him, he's the only unbeaten dog left in the competition. So, but I don't think Coolvani Hoffa lost anything in defeat. So when you see a dog with the brilliance he had the previous week and the brilliance he had last Saturday night, for him to show that he can maybe he didn't come out on top the previous week, but he at least showed that he's, he wasn't giving in or he wasn't shirking the battle. He was doing his best. So, like, he's pretty much a perfect greyhound in the sense that he can do these amazing clocks when he does it right, or when things go right for him, or when he's, when he gets a run, and he can also dig down deep and qualify if things are against him. And that's what people will be looking to. Anybody who's backed him now or any connections of him will be looking and saying, do you know what? Things look tricky for the semi-final, but you know what? We have a dog who has class in abundance, but also determination to qualify. So he's just brilliant. It was a joy to watch him. I was just saying, standing behind you, probably boring you, saying, wow, that was class. That was just beautiful to watch the way he did it the other night. So he's just a class act. And you know what? He left CryptoPunk standing going to the first bend. That's not easy. CryptoPunk is a dog with fair ability, fair early pace. Like Vincenzo broke in second place. CryptoPunk had the pace to lead Vincenzo into the bend. But like Coolvani Hoffa was just away. He was just in a different league by the time they got to the first bend. And you know what? If you want to talk about the ones behind it in a very positive light, like CryptoPunk is only beaten 4 lengths by a dog doing 29-24. Vincenzo, we'll get onto it in a minute, but there were a lot of positives in Vincenzo's run, believe it or not. Even though he'd beaten 5 lengths, I think there was things that he hadn't done in the previous rounds of the Derby that he did the other night, which give me positive, going into the semi-final. So it was a hot heat, but Coolvani Hoffa was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, Kevin, we've said it a few times. There was a touch of the Law Hill Blakes about him again. Obviously, same trainer, Michael O'Donovan, and Coolvani Hoffa. The train keeps on rumbling on.
Yeah, look, he's an airplane, isn't he? Like, there's absolutely no denying it. And I think of the 12 that are left, I don't think I'm doing a disservice to any dog to say that, like, he probably has that touch of class, a little bit ahead of the rest. Like, he just is awesome when he does everything right. Like, he took a flyer the other night again, and if he leads, if he gets to dominate from the front, I genuinely don't think there's a greyhound in this Derby that can pick him up. I think the only chance you have of getting him beat is a run like what Callaway Pro-Am did that night, to sort of go to the corner with him, try drag him into a battle, and I do think that's the best chance that there is to get him beat, because if you allow this dog to dictate terms from the front, he's shown it. Like, he can do 29-20, he's done 29-13. He's going to do a run from the front that you just don't pick up dogs doing. So I do think to get him beat, they have to match him to the bend. They have to keep tabs on him, sort of try and drag him into a tussle, because if he's allowed to dominate, it's going to be one-way traffic. I just think the key to him is that trapping. Like, he came out running the other night. Like, now whether it was a case of him blowing the lids off it, or maybe the likes of a Vincenzo and CryptoPunk not getting their best start, but like Tommy said, like, he had this race put to bed before the corner. Like, he left them standing. Now I know the likes of Callaway Master, Hoodoo Brown, Savannah Hero wouldn't be blessed with early, so that sometimes can exaggerate to your eye. But when you see the clocks this dog is doing, like, what more do you say about him? Again, like what Tommy said, I was very pleased with the runner-up and the third. I don't think they lost a whole lot in defeat. Like, it's very easy to get your eye drawn to the dog that's dominating out front, but I thought the runner-up in particular ran a massive race, and the third, we'll touch on him later. Yeah.
Yeah, Coolvani Hoffa, it's worth pointing out, he's won 8 of his, he's now won 9 of his 15. His record wasn't all that sensational for the first, 5 or 6 races of his career. He won twice down in Tralee, or in the Juvenile Classic, then lost his next 4. But since he came back, he had a comeback run on June 11th. He was beaten 5th, found trouble early, didn't get involved. But then from the 18th of June, he won in 28-29 in Shelburne, 28-10 in Shelburne, 28-02 in Shelburne, 29-56 in his first 550, 29-56 in his second 550. That was in the opening round of the Derby, 29-13 in the third round of the Derby. And then he suffered his first defeat in 7. So he'd gone 6 in a row, got beaten by Callaway Pro-Am, and then wins last week. So he's now won 8 or 7 of his last. I'm working out here, 7 of his last 8. So here's a greyhound that's clearly at the very peak of his powers, and I think that was evident to everyone the other night. Again, before the draw, I had turned to Tommy and Billy Brennan, who was also on the scene, and said, the big test is when he's going to be drawn against a Born Warrior up his inside or something like that. You know, he was the one dog that I want in 6 Culavani Hoffa, with the exception of if he's up against Born Warrior, I want him on the other side of him. Listen, we'll talk about that in time. Second was CryptoPunk. You both touched upon it. Simon Taylor and Graham Holland won the Derby 2 years ago with New Win Taylor. He's not a New Win Taylor, but he's a very talented greyhound. He's running very much at the peak of his powers at present. There's no question he will need luck going forward in this Derby. He's still a 50-1 chance. I've come across far worse 50-1 chances, let it be said. And then Vincenzo, who's currently 10-1 with yourselves, Kevin. He was always going to struggle to get around CryptoPunk. We always sort of knew that was going to be the key to his chances in the contest. Didn't get around, took a bump, sort of charged into the third bend, is forced to check up CryptoPunk, sort of not even closing the door so much. I think Vincenzo prefers to pass on the outside. But Tommy, what impressed you the other night was he didn't swing off the last bend like he had been doing. He kept a truer line, and he absolutely hammered up the home straight because Callaway Masters had definitely got beyond him. He was definitely up on him at one point. And for Vincenzo to pick up a Callaway Masters and qualify, that was a big, big run.
Well, let's start with the only negative, right? He does lack that little yard pace into the first bend, right? Because he broke in front of CryptoPunk. And ideally, if you want to win a Derby, you probably need to hold CryptoPunk to the first bend. That's the reality of it. But he did things the other night that I didn't think he was capable of in the previous rounds, whether he had something very small that was aiding him, that was forcing him a little bit wide, was making him exaggerate the movements he'd been making. I thought the other night he swung in tight out the second bend with the intention, and the beauty of it was, I think you're trying to think about what greyhounds are thinking, which is probably silly, but to some degree. But what I thought was, when he came out of the second bend, he eyed up the dog in front of him and thought, I can pass this dog, CryptoPunk, and then decided very quickly at the second bend, it's like he checks off right quickly. No, he's about 2 lengths behind CryptoPunk, so he's not right checking off the back of the dog. He's actually thinking, oh, well, okay, I want to go right. But then CryptoPunk drifted right out to the hair rail, and then he thought, well, now I've got to go inside him. So he went to go inside him, which, as you said, he doesn't favour, and he checked up. I don't think he'd have been capable of even moving for that inside line in the last few rounds, to be honest about it. And the beauty of it is, he obviously felt that the dog felt that he was going to go by the one in front of him, so he was looking for lines to do that, if you know what I mean. He felt he was looking for a line to where I'm going to go by this dog. It just didn't happen. He could argue a dog who was used to going by dogs along the inside could have driven through at the third bend, right? He probably could have, right? If he's used to, but like you said, he probably favoured the outside. But then to let Callaway Masters, a dog who stays exceptionally well and who did well the previous week to fend off a really strong stayer whose name now escapes me, just to qualify the previous round, to beat Hoodoo Brown, who was coming at him in the heat. That was exceptionally strong performance from Callaway Masters. So for Vincenzo to come by him again to the line, and then what he did was he probably ran down Culavani Hoffa to the escape. You kind of half expected, but when things would go wrong, maybe you wouldn't. So he's exceptionally strong. I think there were reasons to think that he was much closer to the dog we saw in the Champion 550 a few weeks back. I think he was much, much closer to that level. And I think I'm expecting it next week. I actually think he'll win the heat next week, and I'm quite strong on him. And only for the fact that I'm on him, and if he qualifies for the final, I'm going to get paid. I'm going to be in profit anyway. I would probably back him to win the heat.
Yeah, Kevin, he has one thing that you need in a greyhound at this point in the Derby, and once you have it, you always have a chance. He's got a massive engine. He's just an immensely powerful greyhound.
He is, and I think he was unfortunate not to get through at the third bend, to what Tommy was saying there. I think he did try get up that inside of CryptoPunk. CryptoPunk was just that half a length in front of him at the time and just said, no, not happening, and closed the door. At that point, I thought his Derby was done, because not only did he lose the ground he lost, but his momentum. You have Callaway Masters in behind who hasn't had to change his stride. It was full of momentum, and it was almost like Vincenzo had to sort of gather himself to get going again at the home straight. I couldn't believe he got back up for third. And like I said to you the other night, when we done the piece after race, and every dog throughout a Derby, nearly that I can remember, maybe Cogwell Blake probably didn't have it, or Susie Susie had a couple of dodgy trap draws, but she just made light work of them. But every dog sort of goes through a Derby campaign and has that night that you look back on and go, wow, you wiped the sweat from your brow that night. Like you should have been out, but you didn't go out. And if Vincenzo, and I, in a weird way, I just always believe that a Derby winner will have that night. And Vincenzo's could have been the other night that he should have went out. He really should have, and he didn't. And
it reminds me a bit of I'll bring you back a few years. Bypass Byway in the Derby quarterfinals looked dead and buried. He fluffed his lines of traps, and I think he found traffic, and he qualified that night, and that was the night he won the Derby.
Yeah.
And as you say, if you survive that one night, it's a case of, listen, the weight is lifted off me now. I'm here to compete. Let me loose.
Yeah, no, it happened to me with JT Jet in England. He was stopped at the first bend, and he got up to dead heat for third with a dog.
And by God, thank God he did. Thank God he did.
And I remember going in, and they said to me, like, are you tossing or do you want a rerun? I said, I'll rerun in 10 minutes time if you want. I said, there's no way I'm tossing the coin. And everyone's like, oh, your Derby sort of over if you have to do a rerun. I was the happiest man in the world. Like, going down the back straight with these last by 6 lengths on his own. If he'd said to me that,
I remember that, and I was on a Manti post. I wanted the rerun as well, because I said in a rerun he'd do 28 seconds, he'd break the clock, and his price will just completely fold. This will be lovely,
but every Derby there's a night like that. Now Hoffa's is, if Hoffa goes through, pops out, wins semi-final, wins the final, it's the semi-final draw. Do you know what I mean? People are anticipating the draw being worse than potentially it could look after the semi-final if he pops out, makes all. But I do think that Vincenzo, I really like him. Like, he's going under the radar. He hasn't done what he done in the Champion Puppy 550. Like, we're looking at Coulivan Hoffa doing 29-24. You're going down through the list of the other 11 and saying, well, what could do that? Well, Vincenzo has done 29-30, 29-20 before, so he's definitely one who, on his night, could do a run like that. So, yeah, I wouldn't put anyone off him. And the runner-up, I have to say, this is a dog I watched. I suppose it's another one coming from Liam Peacock, the Bogger kind of, like, he's really producing some nice dogs. But he was one that I saw running early in his career. You knew sort of when his name was changed and he was into Simon Taylor's name, you knew he had to have ability. Never really blew me away. But in this Derby, he's really sort of come of age. He strikes me as a dog that, is becoming a man. We've done that talk about Romeo.
He's probably also appreciated a few runs at the same track over the same trip just to find his feet.
Yeah, exactly. And we spoke plenty about Romeo Magico, that he flashed here and there as a pup, but he became a man this year. And CryptoPunk just, I'm not saying he'll be a Romeo Magico, but he just strikes me as a dog that's going a similar way. That I think that we haven't even seen the best of him yet. I know he's only 4 lengths off Hoffa. I wouldn't be surprised if that lad done even better again. And he's a factor in the Laurels or a Ledger coming towards the end of the year. I think he's really running into good form now.
He's a Ledger type greyhound, there's no question about it. The three didn't qualify. Callaway Masters we'll get to in a second. Didn't happen for Hoodoo Brown. Didn't happen for Savannah Hero. It was just one of those nights where track was going well. It wasn't that easy to come from off the pace. I know there was one lady we might be talking about a little while that just proved that it could have been done, although she didn't get there. But didn't happen for Hoodoo Brown and Savannah Hero. Callaway Masters. We were talking the other night. You probably have to feel sympathy for Dennis Murphy and Owen McKenna, but they didn't have to wallow in their sorrows for too long, because half an hour later, Callaway Pro-Am was giving them ample consolation. And I'm sure if they were given the choice of which one they wanted to go through to give them the best chance, it would have been Pro-Am. But Callaway Masters, as you said, came into the Derby just in tremendous form and continued it right until the very last second, where he got knocked out in the 549th yard or 550th yard of the quarterfinals. And if he continues in this vein, he's going to win another bucket load of races before the end of the year, and he's certainly a dog you could see running well in the Ledger as well down at Limerick. We'll move on to Heat 3. We're going to get through these. Heat 3 was Mary's Wedding. This was Born Warrior, again showing blistering early speed. For a dog that was probably not the most natural starter prior to the Derby, his trapping has definitely improved, and it's there. You can see it 350, 352, now at 342, 341, and at 334 the other night, Kevin. Similar to CryptoPunk in a way, the series of runs at the same track over the same trip. A dog that's only had his 16th start the other night. He just seems to be learning all the while, and brilliant run from the front, although you knew at the third bend he was probably in a bit of danger, because while Vincenzo isn't being as pronounced off the final bend, Born Warrior still continues to run his true line around that bottom bend. He runs very wide at the third bend, or fourth bend, should I say, and he's just chinned by Mary's Wedding, who's a sister, of course, to Ballymac Finn, and she really is going places. This was her 14th start and a tremendous winner in 29.44. Back in third was Droopy's Nice One, but I think we'll start with Born Warrior rather than Mary's Wedding, Kevin.
Yeah, look, he came out running. He came out running the other night. That's probably the best. I'm sure you're out there naming out the sections, and obviously 3:34 is probably his best he's ever done. But that was a career start for him.
I think it's the best. I think it's the best of this year's Derby as well. Which says it all.
Yeah, and for a dog that, like you said, we know what he can do to the third bend. It's just always been sort of the first stride. He's never been a poor starter, but he's just never been electric from a box that you put sort of with dogs that do those fancy clocks to the third bend. Now he's putting that together. Like we say it year on, year out, the Derby's won from the front. You qualify, plenty of the stayers can qualify and get to the final, but you look at the finals through the years, whatever leads that first bend, not many of them get picked up. Do you know what I mean? So, and he has that capability. He has that. Now that he's putting together those starts, he's going to be an awfully hard dog to hold to the third corner if he does things right. Now, look, we know the semi-finals, we'll touch on that later, but just judging on his quarter-final run, if I have him, I'm over the moon. He does what he does off the last bend. Like, I know people are saying he doesn't stay at 550. He's running 560. Like he's giving him. He's running further than this trip. Like he really is. He's throwing away.
Let's just say, right. He has a 29.51, a 29.46, and a 29.47 the other evening, and he's throwing away 2 lengths off that last bit. So if he's not doing that, and he's doing a low 29.30s on 3 different occasions, you can't say he's not staying it. It's probably that he just throws away those 2 lengths, and while he would get to the line perfectly well, as strongly, let's say, as a new Taylor, who's won a Derby, and Susie Sapphire, but the fact that he's thrown away those 2 lengths at that particular point in the race, when other dogs are advancing, stronger running dogs perhaps, I'm not going to say he doesn't stay it, but he's vulnerable from the third bend for different reasons.
100. I think you couldn't have summed it up better. Like that's the truth. Like the dogs that are getting to him, they're close. The stairs are coming at that point. They're as close as they're going to be off the last bend. And he's like, and as well as that, like I'd love to know what he's getting beat by. Like he's never getting beat by 4 lengths that he's not staying. Like he's getting chinned if he's getting caught. Like he's within a length or so every night that he gets picked up.
His three defeats in the Derby were a head, a length, and a half length the other night.
There you go. Like he's not getting, like it's not like he's walking up the home straight. And this is the quarterfinal of a Derby. So look, I'm mad about the dog. I think I've always been a big fan of the dog and the new connections local to myself. So Willie Hanlon and a few of them involved, and I can tell you there won't be anyone's connections roaring louder than them boys in the semi-final night. So yeah, look, I think he's got a great chance, and he's doing everything right. And if he keeps up that start, and he'll be a worry for plenty.
Tommy, Born Warrior.
Yeah, like Kevin made a good point. Like if you want to win a Derby, you've got to have something a little bit extra special somewhere in your race, somewhere, and he has it early. That's what he has. Now, look, if we want to be really cold about it, his 16.97, while brilliant, is still a nice bit below what Kulvani Hoffa is doing, 16.88, and whatever Kulvani Hoffa did when he did 29.13. What was that, 16.80 or something?
Yeah.
80, yeah, which was out of this world kind of going. Now, Born Warrior I think is improving in that sense. I wasn't that surprised that Mary's Wedding picked him up the other night, and the reason being they were very close in a couple of rounds previously. And I just thought that she'd get a good run at him. I thought she stepped forward from that run to her previous run. So she didn't have to take an awful big jump forward again to be a real player. He's not giving up to the line. That's the beauty. If you think about it, the point Kevin is making is right, because Droopy's Nice One is a stayer. And Droopy's Nice One down to third bend, I'm saying to you after, extremely harshly saying, God, she probably should have won from there. Maybe she shouldn't have, let's be honest about it. You're at a quarterfinal of a Derby. It's not easy to do these things. But I'm thinking, the way I see Droopy's Nice One finishing off her races, I'm thinking, you know what, you'll pick up 2 or 3 lengths here on the ones in front. But, at this stage of the Derby, they just don't come back. You've got to make all the progress yourself. So I think, like, Born Warrior is not folding away. You do have a small concern that yes, when you're running 6 weeks in a row, if you get as far as the final, that it will take a little bit of a toll if you are losing that ground towards the end of a race. And when the pressure is highest, when the Derby final is on and you're up against probably the best greyhounds in the country, that it will be exaggerated or it will be more difficult. So look at it's there's a few ways of looking at it, but if you own the dog, you think, you know what? Yes, every Derby winner needs something special, and we have it. It's just whether things go in our favour and we get to the final and that we have the chance to actually show what we can do. So look at, he's a smashing dog. I'd be mad about him. I think he's got, when you've got that type of early pace, like Vincenzo, if we go back to him for a second, he's more about stamina. He has a bit of early pace, a little bit, but not enough. But like, which would you prefer going to a Derby final? You want to be in front, don't you?
It's much easier to make a case for a Born Warrior.
Exactly. You want to be in front. So I'm not certain that he'll qualify next Saturday night, but if he does, well, he's a player to win the Derby, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's going to be so competitive in behind. If he happens to hit the front, they're not quite going to get the clear running behind him that they have been doing. And, you know, if there is 2 or 3 of the real early speedsters and he happens to lead them into the corner, well, all of a sudden he has a couple of buffers in behind him, and that could be the key. And if you were connected to Born Warrior, there's nothing to lose out of this.
Just to go in there, like I thought he was a massive lay the other night. When you looked at the race, Barefoot Supremo, Droopy's Gravy, Marie's Wedding, Khalil Phelps, and Droopy's Nice One. He was guaranteed.
Just screams power.
A stair was guaranteed to turn second or third to him. Now, if I said to you, Callaway Pro-Am, Hoffa, Skywalker Barry, well, I know he's probably staying a bit better, but you get the point. If they turn second or third, you don't expect them to come from 3 behind or 2 behind. Now, I know you could make the argument there'll be 2 ahead of Born Warrior, but if Born Warrior turn into the back straight 2 ahead of a Callaway Pro-Am and a Skywalker or a Coulivanny Hoffa, well, now he's got those buffers to slow down the likes of a Crafty Kokoro that might be coming at him. So the quarterfinal the other night, there was a stair guaranteed to turn second, another stair guaranteed to turn third. The race was set up for him to get caught. It mightn't happen like that in the semi-final. If he leads by 2 off the second bend or leads by a length off the second bend in the semi-final, I would not expect him to get picked up.
Yeah, it's just the point I want to make on Born Warrior before we move off from him. I've noticed his SPs the last 2 or 3 nights, they've come from the layers have gone to, they've looked to lay him. He's been a considerably bigger price on the night than he was during the week. So maybe that's worth keeping in mind for Saturday night. If you're looking to back him in his heat, he would probably be a bigger price on the night, because the layers, in fairness, they're after getting their dough the last 2 nights by laying him. Now, it didn't look likely either night. But anyway, we'll get to Mary's Wedding, because she really is coming forward, Tommy. She's just a very exciting lady. The key to her race the other night was she got across the top 2. Now, that wasn't a difficult task in itself, because she probably does have more natural early speed than them. Her issue has often been her start, but she just seems to be sharpening up that little bit more. And once she turned second, you know, she had started to close the gap slightly at the 3rd bend, which in itself is testament to her ability. But then around the last 2 bends, she's very fluent. Off the last bend, it was only a case of when rather than if. She's just going the right way, Tommy. We had November Bitch winning it last year. We have a November Bitch remaining in the competition of Mary's Wedding. Okay, she's a different proposition to Susie Sapphire, but there's no question she has legitimate claims in this Derby.
Yeah, she does. Like we talked at length about the bitches last year, and we kind of half ignored them to some degree this year. And yet we had 3 bitches in the quarterfinals. We now have 3 bitches in the semi-finals. They all deserve immense credit. The funny thing was, when we were talking last week, we were talking about that Callaway Pro-Am and Coulivanny Hoffa heat, and how Mary's Wedding closed them down very quickly and from the 3rd bend and whatever else, and it was only 29.70, whatever it was, one.
She closed them down as quickly the other night, nearly around the bottom 2 bends.
It was 29.76 was one in, and yet the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd from that race all won their quarterfinal heat. So I suppose the form wasn't too bad as you look back at it. Yeah, sometimes you can have a slow race but a great race, and maybe that's what it was with Callaway Pro-Am, Coulivanny Hoffa, and Mary's Wedding. So I didn't feel there was a fluke in the fact that she was 3rd in such a good heat. Maybe I was surprised that she was so close the previous week, and hence the reason I was kind of fancying her the other night. I thought she was a bit overpriced at around about 4-1. There was a lot of strong support for her. She finished up 3-1. They did come for her before the off, and you can understand it, like you said. And the way I've been thinking about it before the race was that she can clear the 2 insider. She should clear the 2 insider in that heat and get a run at Born Warrior, and that's the key. If you want to pick up Born Warrior, you want to be eyeing up the run quite early. Get yourself in that prime position. And she was the one, as Kevin said, there were stairs going. One of them was bound to turn second. She was the one that did, or moved into second place fairly quickly after the 1st bend. So immense credit, and she's quite likely raced. I mean, there's no reason there's not more to come from her.
Yeah, there was only 14 start the other night, Kevin. She's currently 12-1 for the Derby. A bitch in against, obviously one of three bitches in against 9 exceptionally fast greyhounds. It suggests that she's far from an also ran. She's a legitimate Derby contender. Although she's a tricky enough draw next week, she'll need to be hitting the lids. But it was a fine run the other evening, and it was no surprise to anyone that's been watching her.
How many greyhounds in history have broken 28 seconds in Shelburne? Yeah. You might know.
It's about at this stage it's about 26, 27.
Right.
I'd say, yeah.
Even at that, 26 greyhounds ever. And you think of all the great dogs, they've all run over the 525 in Shelburne. Now I know the track is that bit quicker at the moment, but the fact still remains. This is a November 20 who has broken 28 seconds in Shelburne.
In May.
Should we? Yeah, exactly. So should we be surprised? Her ability has always been there. I think she's been, I won't say unlucky. She very much could have easily won a Puppy Oaks. She was expected nearly to win that Puppy Oaks, and it didn't really happen for her. But she's always had that. That she has that X factor about her, doesn't she? On her night, she's capable of just beating the very, very best of them. I think you're right. I think the traps, I suppose, is the key to her. I was a little bit disappointed with her. I think it was the first round or the second round, but she's really come in to her own as the runs have gone on. And for a bitch, often you might question, would the 6 rounds take it out? And there's a reason not many bitches have won derbies, and it potentially is their slighter frames, and 6 rounds, it's a war of attrition, so, but she looks all of 66 pounds, and it looks like the step up and trip suits her in the extra 25 yards in the 550. She's very strong. I wouldn't bet against her. I think she's that price for a reason. I think she was a worthy winner the other night, although we say, look, the Born Warrior, he was sort of a pacemaker out front, but take nothing away from her. Born Warrior, you named out his times there, 29, 40 and 30s and these clocks. You don't pick up dogs doing those runs too easy, and she got there, and she got there easy at the end. It mightn't have looked like she was going to get there off the second bend, but she was a convincing winner by half a length. And Droopy's nice one, another bitch, only another length back behind Born Warrior. And if you watch her into the escape, she's another one that the runs don't seem to be knocking it over at all, and stamina is her game. And with what I think is a remaining 12 with all bar one stayer, Droopy's nice one, and Marie's Wedding are probably the next 2 strongest stayers left in the competition after Kokoro. So, yeah.
Yeah, she's there. She's pitching, and she's going to need another fast start or 2. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't completely dismiss her. Droopy's nice from the outside. Tommy, you touched upon her briefly. Yeah, she was in a nice position at the third bend, but she does stay wide. And even when Born Warrior swings wide, she seems to be nearly wider, but she absolutely hammered up the home straight, and especially into the escape. She looks a really strong, she is. We've been talking about her for a long time at this stage. She's won 10 of her 23. She hasn't won in a while. August 19th was her last success, the night she pipped Kildare on the line, but she's still there. She's got a good draw the next night. She's going to have to, show her speed into the opening corner, but it's worth pointing out she was side by side with Marie's Wedding, disputing second the other night, so she can still go to a corner. It's just the fact that she tends to run away around the opening 2 bends and down at the bottom 2 bends as well. But there's no question the engine is there. And another Droopy Sydney, we've got to mention that all 4 heats were won by Droopy Sydney's the other night. It's just incredible. But Droopy's nice one, very powerful. I turned to you after the race and went, God, she'd do some run for 575, 600.
Yeah, she is class, in fairness to her. I was just being a bit hard to when I watched it in live, I thought maybe she'd pick these up, and then she didn't. But then when you look back, the clock is she's doing 29.54 on the clock. You're trying to come from behind dogs who are doing 29.44. So it's a huge ask. She had 29.32 on her clock, for 550. So that's phenomenal stuff. And she's only September. She's not an awful lot younger or older than Marie's Wedding. She has a good bit more experience, but she's still quite young. There's still a little bit of potential for further improvement in her. She actually, I suppose, much depends on how Gert Kelly Nestor breaks on Saturday night, but she has a good chance of qualifying.
Yeah, good chance. Kevin, Droopy's nice one. Mert is obviously flying the last number of years, but just with the bitches in particular, he just seems to get a sweet tune out of them.
Yeah, and this one really has gone under the radar. She's immensely talented. Coming into the Derby before it started, now if you'd have asked me to pick a bitch, she would have been the one I'd have stuck me 5 on in the bitch market. I think she's sort of I don't think she's won enough as much as she could, and I don't think she sort of got that recognition yet. But she's uber talented. Frustrating, I would say, slightly with her running style. We talked about Born Warrior off the last bend. She takes a very similar line off the last bend. Sometimes she looks like she's going to get there, and then maybe throws away that length that could cost her off the last bend. It's these runs now that could catch her out. You know, I agree with Tommy. I think she's got a great makeup in the semi-final. I'd absolutely love for Murty to get a runner into the final. And yeah, like you said, when you give Murty the ammunition, he's well able to use it, because he's got some tune out of these ladies over the last couple of years, and the dogs too. But I think the three of them all have a chance of potentially making the final. Marie's Wedding Born Warrior and Ruby's Nice One. And I wouldn't mind being connected to any of them.
No, and the three that went out there, Kilico, Phelps, Duby's Gravy, and Barefoot Supremo, just didn't happen for them in the contest. It was sort of the three got away, and nothing was really coming from behind at this point. That sort of somewhat changed in the next heat, but Barefoot Supremo, Kevin, there'll be other days with him. He'll be given a break, I'm sure.
Yeah, look, he's a bit of a shoulder injury after it, so that sort of explained a lot of it for us. But we'll wrap him up now, and whether or not you see him at the end of the year, I wouldn't be so sure. Brian and the father like to sort of, when they have a good one like him, they sort of like to target the Derby, and an Easter Cup as a prep. So I wouldn't be surprised if the next time we saw this, that it might be in an Easter Cup in March or that. So look, it wasn't to be, but we'll dust ourselves down and go again. Don't worry.
This is it. You have no choice at this stage, I'm afraid, Kevin. On to the last of the four heats. And this was a contest where the favourite was Explosive Boy in the end, which came as a bit of surprise to me. I thought Callaway Pro-Am was almost certain to start favourite. I had him in at a shade of odds on. Explosive Boy, though, people were making the most of that red draw. He's going to hammer out of lids. It didn't happen for him. Just didn't. This was while he showed great determination and resolve to qualify, just wasn't his whatever about his old spark. It wasn't even his recent spark. It just didn't happen from him in the early years, but he did stay on strong to score. In contrast, Callaway Pro-Am just absolutely flew from traps. 341. It did look a little bit faster. I suppose that's his colouring. He big white dog sort of racing under my nose into the opening corner. Looked like he was absolutely motoring. He went on to win very comfortably, very comfortably. Went on to race into a very comfortable lead in 29:41. He held on from a certain Crafty Kokoro, who is absolutely at the very peak of her powers. You can just see the confidence that's coming through her. I think she was rushed back for the Corncull, and she improved through that competition. And it just seems that improvement has continued. She's really she really is an absolute powerhouse. There's no question about it. Explosive Boy getting up on the line to chin Bullet from a gun, who would have provided some colour and some noise at the semi-finals had the boys, the Aina boys syndicate qualified. I know they were certainly living their best life over the last few weeks, but sadly it wasn't to be for Bullet from a gun. Tommy, I'll start with you. Callaway Pro-Am, he looks every bit of Derby contender. He's just doing things right. He's now won 9 of his 12 starts, and each and every night he just seems to be sharpening up. There was his fastest sectional the other night, and just did everything right. Like if Crafty Kokoro is not in the race, you go, wow, that was some victory.
And I would suggest the track was probably back about maybe 10 spots or so, like even with the clock that Kulvani Hoffa did, and I think the whole night it might have been back a little bit. They all did step forward. In my opinion, they all stepped forward a bit. The Callaway Pro-Am is just clearly a difficult dog to beat. Now, we talked about him here last week, and we were very confident we thought he'd win, and we kind of half predicted that there would be, because of the popularity of Explosive Boy, that there would be money for him, and the fact that he had the red jacket and people might come for him. He wasn't himself, and he did qualify, and I think connections will be saying, well, thank God for that, we might have got away with that one. But Callaway Pro-Am, when he flew the lids and was clear going to the event, I'd say we could have been feeling a bit smug, thinking, hey, we've got this one right. He's going to win alone, and there was some sweat coming to the line. If you back
smugness was knocked off your face at the last bit.
Yeah, very, very. But do you know what? There was a little bit of joy in that too, because it was Crafty Kokoro that was coming from behind, and we're all. I think you, I, and the whole world is on Crafty Kokoro each way. so like the pace she showed, like your commentary, there was a small touch of your father's commentary when here comes Crafty, like or Kokoro, whatever you called her, one name when she was coming off the last bend. Like it was a terrific race, and you know what? look, I don't know the connection to bullet from a gun, and you'd feel for them a little bit because they were a bit unlucky not to qualify. But Explosive Boy has such a popular following as well. It's good to have him in the semi-finals again, even if you think he's got a step forward on all we've seen from him probably this Derby to win a Derby. But he is an important part of the last 12, I think.
Yeah, Kevin, Dennis Murphy and Owen McKenna getting that consolation, having lost out with Callaway Masters by just a short head, but Callaway Pro-Am, Liam Peacock did a wonderful job, firstly breeding him and rearing him and starting him off. Like, he had a wonderful record before even going to Owen. But it's safe to say that this dog has really developed over the last few weeks. The step up to 550 has probably been key. He really does relish that longer run to the opening corner. He just looks razor sharp and just did everything right the other night.
Yeah, like his running style has changed a little bit more than me. Like, Liam was getting some tune out of this lad. Like the clocks he was doing in Thurles, and like we all know that Red Mills produces Derby dogs year in, year out. Doesn't matter what the dogs are that are in it, doesn't matter what the clocks they're doing. It just produces Derby quality dogs every single year. And this lad was up there competing with the very best of them. You know what I mean? Curly's dog, another holiday that won it, but this lad was right up there amongst them. So his running style has just changed for whatever reason since going to Owen. He seems a much sharper dog to the corner. Does he stay as well? I don't know. I remember I thought he was a real good all-rounder. I thought 575 and stuff like that would have been no problem to him in his early part of his career. But now he's a burner, isn't he? He'll burn you off to the third bend. I don't know what more you can say about him. He's the only unbeaten dog left in the competition. He's eligible for the Puppy Derby. Not that he has any chance of lining up in it, I don't think. But he's a dog with some future, isn't he? And like you said, they're short heads, and then there's how far Callaway Masters went out on Saturday night by. Like, when the photo finish went up, I don't think you'd have got the width of a coin between the two dogs. So yeah, you really feel for connections there, and then they get the sort of the victory that they deserve with Callaway Pro-Am and Owen. Like, I was talking to him after the race, and Owen, like, he's not going to give away a whole lot, but you can sort of tell he's just that level of excitement is there. He was talking about how the semi-final.
He does get a touch giddy when he's sort of excited.
Yeah, he was sort of talking about the other dogs more than normal. About what did you think of this dog, and you just got that sort of feeling from him that that he really, really likes this dog, and how could you not? He's doing everything the right way. And look, if you had Hoffa, if you were connected to Hoffa, the one time you were beaten in the Derby was this time this got up your inside. So, and as well as that, it's worth noting, like, I know Kokora didn't get there, but this has been in 2 short finishes throughout this Derby, and he's come out on the right side of both of them. And that's a good sign of dog. I think this that
I was going to say his last 2 victories were both by a head, but they couldn't have been any different head victories. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and this lad, I know, and I'm not saying Hoffa won't battle and win. I'm not saying that at all. But this lad, I think he loves it. Like, he just strikes. I'm not basing on anything, but he just strikes me as a dog that, this lad is not afraid to lower his shoulder at a bend or cut you off into the third bend or just dig it out. I'd say he'd be a hard dog to get past.
He loves racing, and I mean, like, getting into a battle, getting competitive. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, he's doing nothing wrong, and he's 80 pounds thereabouts, so he's not small.
Kokora was in second, Kevin.
She's something special. Look, we saw this. I suppose I saw this just from a personal point of view with Priceless Jet. I think last year, we stepped up to 750 to the Cork Cullen. He was a different dog afterwards. He was getting a bit frustrated before the Cork Cullen. He runs to the Cork Cullen. He dominates from the front a couple of nights. Confidence goes through the roof. Like, Kokora was flying, in Limerick and in places like that and stuff over the 5-5. She stepped up to the 750. She got her nose in front a couple of times. Like, she's a different lady since that. Like, this is the best we've ever seen her. I know she's taken her breath away a couple of times, but like, the level of greyhound that she is running down, and I need to use my words correctly here because I'm not insulting anyone's dogs, but she's making exceptionally good dogs look very slow at times here. Like, it's mad. Like, her run last week, was it the second round, Ian, or the second round? I think I said to you, I wasn't that impressed with her because she turned closer than I thought she had or would ever, and I thought it took her a while to get there. Last week, I gave her no chance where she was, and she passed stairs to win. And like again, and I was standing in the stand, and we talk about, like, I love the storylines and the greyhounds that capture the imagination. Like off the second bend, the 5 people around me, not sure who they were, every one of them, oh, look how close the bitch is. Look where she is. Race on. Like, she's still probably 6 lengths behind. And everybody knows what's coming. Like, will she get there or not? The fact she's railing. And I think it's worth noting, 4 wides and middle left. We talk about the line, Born Warrior, Hoffa, Nice One.
And it's more the wides and middle that are involved. They're exactly. Really fast greyhounds that could well go to the final.
Yeah, who's to say you won't have 3 insides and 3 wides in the final? And if you did, like, Priceless Jet is a wide seed, but Priceless Jet can often cut in at the third bend. I know you talked about that. And cut in at the third bend.
Once or twice.
Yeah, none of these are cutting in. They're all staying wide. They're all staying off the bend. She 9 times out of 10 so far, she's had the insight to herself off the last bend. Look, I'm obviously very pally with the lads. I'd be cheering her on for them. But it's wonderful to see. And for me, she's the only real stayer left, which is more of a benefit too, that the stayers won't be getting in her way. And like, if she turns into the back straight in the semi-final, every one of the other 5 dogs are looking to see where she is.
Yeah, Tommy Crafty Coro, she is something special.
She just, like, she adds another dimension to the competition, which is what you want. Like, we love the perfection of Coulivanny Hoffa when he does it right, but like Crafty Kokoro, I thought, God, must be something around her the previous round when she went backwards going to the bend after breaking reasonably well. The next thing, she flies home and wins the heat, and then the other night, like, she probably turned a little bit closer, but she's still doing 353, 52, 57, 58. They're pretty lethargic when you compare them to 334, the Born Warrior, the 338 or 9 of Coulivanny Hoffa. Like, she's leaving herself with plenty of work to do, but by God, she's a joy to watch. And I like there are some stayers in there, but none with that sort of swagger, that sort of real, I'm going to fly through.
I said it to Kevin the other night, like, to call her a stayer is nearly an insult. And it's not, because I love stayers, but she has brute raw 4-bend pace as well. Like, from the second bend, the pace she's showing down the back straight is up there with any dog in training.
It's always hard to say, because we'll be talking about the heats in a minute, but it's always hard to say that she might have a good draw, a bad draw, because you just don't know what's going to be in front. Well, everything's going to be in front of her, probably. So it's hard to say what's good or bad, but she'll still make the race interesting, because you know what, we'll be concentrating on the those at the head of the market for the heat, and then when we think, okay, now Coulivanny Hoffa's got his position, or Born Warrior's got a position, then we go, now let's have a look back and see where Crafty Kokoro is. Like,
yeah,
it's a great dimension.
Spare a thought for the fella has to commentate on it. He's trying to get her over the battle for front. And you have to, oh God, I have to look back. Where is she? Where is she? Where is she?
Is your heart bleeding, Tommy? Is your heart bleeding for him, is it?
Oh, big time. Yeah, he's the toughest job in Ireland. But you know what? Do you know who I'd feel sorry for? Those with the greyhounds in third place coming off the last bend.
Oh,
they'll be going, oh, where is she? Where is she now?
The third qualifier, Explosive Boy, we've touched upon him. It'd be some story to get him into another Derby final. I'm not putting words in the connection's mouth, but considering they weren't even fully sure about going for the Derby, I just wouldn't be surprised if he got knocked out next week. It could be his last start. I don't know. Maybe they'll pick a race from a Derby final or something like that. But as I said, I'm not putting words in their mouth. But I think we should relish Explosive Boy while we still have him. Yeah,
very much. Look, he's reigning dog of the year. And I said this to you, Ian, the other night. I think he's won over 80k in prize money, and it
could have been 3 times that.
You sort of feel he's been unlucky to not win more. Like, as ridiculous as it sounds, he is a wonderful greyhound, and I won't talk about him in the past tense, because you know what? Like, he's still in there. Like, he's in there with a chance in a race with such early pace. Like, it's going to be hard to see, and no one wants to see trouble. Like, we don't want to see any trouble in the race, but it's hard to see every one of these dogs getting a clear run. Now, for Explosive Boy, he has to keep tabs with them. He has to potentially. I think his race.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's finish up with Explosive Boy, and then let's look at those 2 semi-finals. So, firstly, Tommy, Explosive Boy, just a wonderful servant. Ran well the other night to qualify, and he's still there.
Brilliant dog, and we've talked about him in the past in the sense that he did change his kind of his modus operandi, which is a great sign of a dog that's happy and healthy. That he still has the desire to do it, even if those legs aren't there. The ones that got to flash out of traps in younger days and win competitions and win that 80,000 that he's after amassing for connections. Like the only unfortunate thing is, as you said, if he did get knocked out next week, and you'd say, well, they might want to find a race from him on Derby final night. You like to think that, somewhere along there'll be a race. The manager might say, we might give him a chance now to finish it off.
It's not going to happen.
I don't know how he's going to do that. Best of luck with that one. The quality of dogs that are waiting to run Derby final night, the very best of luck. But it'd be more fitting for him if he finished off his career in the Derby final.
Yes, no, I tend to agree with you. And there is a very strong possibility he will go through. Let's talk about it in a moment. Well, let's discuss it now, actually, because he's in the first semi-final. It just so happens that this is a pretty hot affair. I think this would have done justice to any Derby final in the past, Kevin. I know you're a bit younger than us. You can't probably quite remember as many, but this really would be fitting of any Derby final.
It would. It really, and you know what it is worth saying, like, I've especially maybe it's been over the last year or two with Susie, and I remember singing on Sally in particular as well. There's been certain draws that on paper look really, really bad. And we've talked about them till literally we can't talk anymore. Like, everybody has said, oh, it's horrendous.
And then bang, one fast start and draw forgotten about.
Yeah, one dog misses the break. Something happens and it's just like, what were we all talking?
Kevin, stop talking us over a job, will you?
But this could genuinely happen here. Like, we're talking about the Derby favourite who's been flawless in recent weeks and who's got his box in 6, and we're saying it's an awful draw. Yeah. There is a chance here that we all look back on what these and everything we've said on this and what me and you spoke of after the race. Just said, like, that was just like, if Born Warrior misses the break and Hoffa gets a flying start and clears Callaway Pro-Am, the race, you can put it to bed pretty much, But saying that, if you did have Hoffa, like you said, Ian, and I agree with you, the one dog I wouldn't have wanted inside me was Born Warrior. He's the one dog that, like he showed last week with his 3:34, he can lead Hoffa to the winning line. He can hold him to the corner, and if he does, he's not going to move in. So Hoffa will either have to go around him or go in behind him, and you wouldn't want either of those two things if you were Coulivanny Hoffa supporters. Callaway Pro-Am, if you're with him, you're not afraid of anything. You're undefeated. You've beaten Hoffa before.
Yeah, the other dog you wanted to avoid, though, if you were Coulivanny Hoffa, is Callaway Pro-Am. So it's sort of, it's a double-edged,
Yeah, and if I'm Crafty Kokoro, it is the perfect heat. I would rather Kokoro in that heat than the other heat. You have all the early pace in there. Like, only one of them can lead. You know what I mean? There's going to be one or two of them very vulnerable. Born Warrior, Coulivanny Hoffa, they'll stay wide off the last bend. She's beaten Explosive Boy last week, and all running, you'd expect her to cover his number again. Crypto Punk, like, he's massive at 25-1. If there is any sort of trouble on the outside here, like, he ran well. So it's a brilliant race, a race to savour. Luckily enough for me, I won't be having a bet on it. I'll just sit back, enjoy it. I'm not holding anti-post pockets like he can sweat it out and call the commentaries.
Yeah, I think I'll be sitting back and watching it too, with fingers crossed. Tommy, I've been using a theory for quite some time with the likes of a Crafty Kokoro. It's not just her; it's her type of greyhound that I've said it ad nauseum. She's better in better company. Well, that theory is going to get well and truly tested on Saturday night. The battle for early supremacy in the outside is going to be vital, but it's hard to see a scenario where Crafty Kokoro, where something doesn't go in her favor, in a sense where all three of them can't go around clear on the outside. One of them leads, one of them doesn't lead. And even if they don't lead, it's a battle, and all of a sudden she can stalk in behind them. She outpaced Explosive Boy down to the third bend the other night, and there's no reason to think she couldn't do it to Crypto Punk. So she's very hard to, like, if you were to pick one certain qualifier from the contest, now there's no certain qualifier, but if you were to pick one, the most likely qualifier, you'd probably pick her ahead of the favorite.
Yeah, the loads and loads of levels to this heat. Like Kevin said, it could be just over, and that's it. Coulivanny Hoffa just shows the acceleration, gets the lane clear around the bend even, and that's probably enough because he's probably 4 clear by the third bend, and it's all over. But now, like he did his best or his second best section done at 3:39. He has a 3:38, but Born Warrior did 3:34 from trap 5. So there's you're going, oh my God, if I'm half a length behind at the line the first time with Coolvani Hoffa, I'm thinking, do you know what we saw last week? That he can be held to a 29.77 run when he got challenged up along the inside because of a bit of bumping and whatever else. But then it's not only that you're thinking, well, Born Warrior can do 3:34. Then you go, we've got Callaway Pro-Am inside and we have a little bit of history and it didn't exactly work out ideally for us. And then you've got Crypto Punk who can go up to the bend and move off a little bit too. So if they could all be looking for room, like the only thing I would change, and like when you're in the semi-final of a derby, you can't ask for any favors. I can't expect things to be entirely right for you. The only thing I would change for Crafty Kokoro is Explosive Boy in the race. Now, ideally, you might say if they had to be those 6 greyhounds, you'd want Crypto Punk too because he moves off. But what I'm saying is Explosive Boy isn't flying out of traps, but he will want an inside line. And so if he does a 3:53, there's a chance he's going to cut across or do something that might get in her way. So she will need a bit of luck, but that's just the nature of her style of running. And also the fact that you're in the semi-final of a derby and you can't expect it to be easy, especially when you have that style of running. So it's not entirely straightforward for Crafty Kokoro to qualify. But I think she's shown so much and she's done some remarkable things in the last few weeks. You'd hope she can. But the winning of the race, and it's not to say she can't win the heat, but the winning of the race, we're kind of thinking is which of the ones gets loose. And I'm not certain that any of them can get loose. I mean, if you have history with Callaway Pro-Am and Born Warrior is a quicker breaker, I don't know. Ted Hegarty came up to me after the racing the other night and he said Hoffa has to be favoured in the heat. And I was going like, yes, it does. It has to be favoured. But it can potentially drift to be a bigger price to win that heat than it is to win the derby, because you made a great point. I was listening to your having Kevin the other night after the racing when you were reviewing it was excellent to listen to be honest. But one of the points that you made was that the final of the derby cannot be as hot as this for Coolvani Hoffa.
It actually can't.
So he can be he doesn't have to win on Saturday night. He just has to finish in the first 3. So he can be a bigger price to win the heat Saturday night than he will be to win the derby outright, because that you're betting on him getting into 3. Now, what I would say, difficult to figure out, but what are the chances? What way would you price both Born Warrior and Coolvani Hoffa qualifying?
It's odds against, I think. I think it's odds against.
Well, it can't be odds on.
Yeah.
It can't be odds on. It can't be near odds on. But
yeah, that's a valid point. I think Kokoro's in the 3, and I think whatever of Hoffa and Born Warrior doesn't lead is in big
world of pain,
trouble. like we're talking about this here. Like CryptoPunk is 25-1. Coolvani Hoffa was flawless last week, and he beat CryptoPunk 4 lengths, not 14. Not 8 lengths, not 10, 4. You know, like he's 28 or he's 28 spots back, and he's 25-1. It's a race to save. What price?
Born Warrior is 9-2 for the heat.
He's 5-1 with us.
All right, he was 9-2. He was 9-2 yesterday when I was talking to Damo.
Yeah, no.
Coolvani Hoffa is clear favourite at the bottom. What price is he now? 5-4.
5-4. Coolvani Hoffa. 3-1. Callaway Pro-Am. 5-1. Born Warrior. 6 is Coro and Explosive Boy. 25-1. CryptoPunk.
Yeah, give me your 3. I can see. Go on.
I can see Coolvani Hoffa drifting, and the reason being, I don't think there's a professional punter who's going to want to dive in at 5-4.
No.
And we might all think that, look, on raw ability, he's going to go win the heat, but I don't really want to back him at 5-4.
From a BoyleSports point of view, the loser in the night, the money is going to come for one greyhound in the race, Crafty Kokoro at 6-1, because it's 6-1. You don't have to have a big chunk on. It's the interest bet, and you know you're going to get a run for your money. I think Born Warrior might attract support at 5-1 purely because of prices, because it's so competitive. You're not going to back something at 5-4 to win it.
We've just talked a second ago, right? And I asked the question about what do you think that Coolvani Hoffa and Born Warrior can both qualify? They can both qualify. I think it's a long way odds against because of the nature of the way they run, right? Now, just say Coolvani Hoffa qualifies and Born Warrior doesn't, right? So then look at the final draw. In worst case, there's 3 wide seeds and there's Gert Kelly, Nestor, Drubby, Nice One, and Coolvani Hoffa.
Yeah.
He's got to be long odds on to lead the outside, even if he's in 4. He's got to be long odds on to lead. So this in effect, even though connections would say would be disgusted at the idea, but like this is almost like his final, because he's going to be so much shorter to win the final if he gets through here. If he wins this, and Born Warrior doesn't. Now, that's not to say Born Warrior can qualify and he doesn't.
Well, in hindsight, we could be looking back going, this was his toughest test.
Yeah.
Rather than saying it's his final, is what I'm saying.
Well, like in theory, you could have Born Warrior in there and Callaway Pro Am, and they're in the exact same boxes in the final. That's possible, but it just seems so unlikely that this is the real acid test for Kulavani Hoffa. It's brilliant. It's what makes the Derby exciting.
I want 3 qualifiers from both of you, please.
Oh,
Kevin, you go first.
Kokoro, Explosive Boy, and Hoffa. Like we didn't talk about. I know I heard the 2 of you sighing when I said Explosive Boy, and I wasn't planning on picking Explosive Boy until about 10 seconds ago.
No, not sighing. No, I can see the scenario. No. All he has to do is hold Crypto Punk into the opening corner, and he's in a lovely pitch if anything happens amongst the outside trio. That's
literally what. I was just looking at it there when I was going through it, because when you were talking about the prices, like how is he 6-1? And then I look at it again. Crypto Punk could go up. Edge right, Kokoro in all known form, it shouldn't be in his way. He's capable of doing a 3, even now, a 3:44, let's say. Do you know what I mean? Or 3:45. If he does a 3:44 and Born Warrior and Hoffa go to the bend together, Born Warrior holds his line and Hoffa comes in, the 2 of them collide. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, he's turning second behind potentially a Callaway Pro Am or one of the front runners. Like, if Explosive Boy is in a qualifying position off the second bend, he qualifies. And I know
unless he's third, Kokoro's on his arse.
If he's third, I still think he's a chance of picking up one in the front 2.
Okay, no, that's valid point. So, Tommy, give me your 3 qualifiers.
Well, it's a great point Kevin makes, because we were overlooking Explosive Boy potentially based on just his last run Saturday night, and the reason being he was sent off favourite to beat Callaway Pro Am the other night. Right? Had he done his run from 2 weeks previously, that's all. Not talking about 6 months ago or last year when he was at the peak of his powers, supposedly. 2 weeks ago, he led all in 29:40, right? So had he done that the other night, we'd be looking at this going, God, he's got the draw of all time. He's got the slowest starter in the competition in 1. He's got Crypto Punk who moves off right in 3. I mean, he's got an avenue to himself. Do you know what I mean? And that's 2 weeks ago, not 2 months, 2 years. That's 2 weeks ago he did a 29:40 run. So, like, we were saying, kind of go, kind of surprised that Explosive Boy, you're putting Explosive Boy. And you know what? You have a great point. I'd be going with 146, but I'm not surprised if it's 246 that qualified, to be quite honest about it. I think Callaway Pro Am has shown such professionalism. I think he can find a way to outpoint Crypto Punk early and and Kevin made a great point about him earlier on, saying that he's a dog that really seems to enjoy the battle, really loves to be in that. And I think he can emerge from that as a qualifier. I think he'd be hard to pick up even if Kulavani Hoffa went away off in front. But I'm siding with 146, but I'm not surprised if it's 246, and that's ridiculous that we're dismissing a dog that did 3:34 the other night and led a quarterfinal. He's comfortably like Born Warrior did, so it's fascinating.
I'm 146 as well, just to put it out there. But to be honest, there's no result that really surprises me in this contest. And you're talking about 6 just supremely talented greyhounds. As I've said more than once, it'd be fitting of any Derby final. On to the second heat. We don't have as long to talk about this one, lads. The 2 of you putting me in a halfpenny place today. I feel like a mute. On to the second heat. Ballymacfin.
You don't say that often.
Are we all in agreement that Ballymacfin qualifies on the inside? If he does his running, if he gets his start, he's going to be hard enough to keep out of the frame. Vincenzo is obviously a huge player. Mary's Wedding in 3 will have supporters. Droopy's Knights will have supporters. And then again, the outsiders, the party, Skywalker Barry and Gort Kelly Nestor. Despite running so well last week, you expect them to be big prices again. Skywalker Barry, there is a point there to be made that he's improved with each and every run through the Derby. Who's to say he won't improve further? It's another very interesting heat, Kevin. Normally I say intriguing when I've nothing to say about it. I have plenty to say about this one. What's your idea?
Well, the key to the race really is the Finn, the pup. Like I think Barry will struggle here, even though I'd love to see him progress. I just think Finn will out-trap him and take his line, and I just think that he's going to be put on the back foot quickly here. Now, if he did, like I said, if he back in his when he was running the Puppy Derby and blowing Cork and winning everything, he was electric from a box. So, and like I said before, I don't think a dog ever loses that. I think it's the yard to the corner that they can lose quicker than it actually a trapping ability. So, I do say that with a sort of an asterisk. Beside it, we just haven't seen Barry trap in the Derby yet. I haven't seen him trap the way I think he can in probably 12 months. If I'm being honest, I just haven't seen it. So I think on all known form I've seen in this Derby so far, Finn will out trap him and take his ground. And I think he's going to be on the back foot early, which would be a concern. I think Finn will lead around the bend here. Now he is in November 20. We know Derby semi-final night, the tension, the crowds, the noise, all those things are potential factors. But in everything I've seen in this lad, and he oozes class, and I don't expect it to put him off. So I'd expect one to lead up. I expect one to qualify, and then I think it's game on from that point. You've got Marie's Wedding, Vincenzo, nice one. I said earlier, that I felt that Born Warrior was the potential lay last week. Given the dogs that went against him, I feel similarly enough about Finn here. I think there's a stamina ridden runner going to potentially turn second here, and maybe within a length or two. Now I do think Finn can stay better than he did last week, but saying that, Marie's Wedding, Vincenzo, Droopy's nice one, I wouldn't like either of them or any of them turning potentially a length or a length and a half off of Finn off the second bend. I think that would be a little bit nerve-wracking. So I think Finn is definitely, of the 12 runners, the shortest priced runner I'd have to qualify for the final. I can't see an outcome potentially where he doesn't qualify, but from a betting point of view on the heat, I'd be looking at the likes of Vincenzo and even a sneaky fiver on a Droopy's nice one at 7-1 potentially.
Tommy?
I've mentioned numerous times that I'm on Vincenzo to win it outright. So I'm like, and it's 6 places, so just gets the Derby final, and I win something on him, right? Which is kind of conflicting with me now. It's kind of annoying me because I've been thinking about it over and over. I think he's winner of this heat. I fancy him strongly to win this heat. I think I saw more than enough last week at that. I think people might have picked up on some of the things that he did in the heat the other night. I saw way more than enough to think that he's not far away from his best. And I think this is a great heat to show it. I think he should lead Skywalker Barry, should lead Mary's Wedding, should lead Gert Kelly Nestor, although Gert Kelly Nestor can break, should lead Droopy's nice one. She'll stay a little bit wide. He showed it in, I think they have a bit of history, do they, from the 550 maybe. I think he can turn second, close second, and prove too strong. Now, because I'm in a situation that I'm standing to win a few quid if he gets to the final. Anyway, it's going through my head last night. Should I back him? Should I not? Because I'm very tempted. I've kind of put it into my head that if somebody makes a foolish mistake and decide that Ballymafin's a good thing and puts him in 3-1, I just can't resist. To go 11-4, I probably can't resist. He's 5-2. I'm tempted. I am. I'm honestly tempted to back him again. But then all my eggs.
Kevin, I'd take evens right now to Tommy Baxton. Okay.
All my eggs will be in one basket, which seems stupid, but I think the value is Vincenzo. I fancy him to win it. I think I have question marks over Ballymafin's run the other night. I don't have question marks over the dog or his ability that he's looking at 29.30s on his clock. He's a seriously fast pup. But the run the other night, and maybe it was down to the charity of the traps. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know what it was. But when he broke, it should have been a 29.40 win by 3-4 lengths. And had Skywalker Barry not kind of eased a little bit into the third bend, he might have picked him up. And then I'd be going, well, God, maybe Finn won't qualify. But I do think he's too good. I think Kevin's right. He's the most obvious qualifier in the heat. But I think Vincenzo turns a close second this time and picks him up. And I know what's going to happen. I'm going to back him and he's going to get knocked out. But I fancy him. I fancy him strongly. I fancy him strongly to win the heat, and that worries me.
Right. So you're going 4-1-6 probably, or 4-1-3, 4-1-2.
I am going. I tell you what, I'm going 4. Oh no, not 4-1-2, 4-1-6. Yeah,
4-1-6. Kevin.
I like Tommy's, but I'll to be different. I'll go 4-1-3.
Yeah, I'm actually the same as Tommy in both heats, and that's really worrying me. 4-1-6. I
worry you as much as it worries me.
I can see the scenario where Vincenzo, he's a very natural trapper, and it doesn't show in his clocks, but he's a very good trapper, and I think he's going to be a lovely pitch going into the opening corner. And yeah, I think if he turns relatively close to the pace, I think there's no situation where there's a CryptoPunk drifting wide and then cutting back in. I think if the inside trio lead him, they stay enough to the fence that his mind is made up for him. He goes around the outside of him at the third bend and makes his move home. And Gord Kelly, Nestor and Drewby's nice one. Well, they'll certainly be staying middle to wide as well. So I just think he goes round in front of them. I'm with Vincenzo, but Ballymacfin is obviously the likely favourite and a deserving favourite. If he hits the lids and does his 29.36 or 29.32, Vincenzo want to be doing every bit of his 29.27 to get around him and beat him. Drewby's nice one. I just think she's positioned to qualify. It'd be great to see Mert with a qualifier. Obviously, Andy Murray went so close with Gord Kelly Nestor last year. I wouldn't give out about that. Skywalker Barry's been a star, and just the way he's going. But I agree with Kevin. I think Ballymacfin will steal his ground at a very vital point in the contest. And given the quality against him, if he does get held up even just a fraction, it's very costly. And then Mary's wedding, well, she's going to have to blitz the lids because Ballymacfin comes out and edges across. All of a sudden, she's a Vincenzo on her outside and a Ballymacfin on her inside. That's serious now. You're in serious territory there, so it can get tight. But gentlemen, that's it. We're down. Next time we're talking, it'll be about the final 6 runners in the Derby. 2 intriguing semi-finals. The very best of luck to all with the Greyhound left in the competition. Tommy, any final thoughts?
No, Vincenzo all the way.
Kevin,
that even money is well gone. He's 2's on to back him now. Look, best luck to everyone in the final. Like you said, Ian, there are 2 cracking semi-finals. I just hope for clean racing and the best 6 qualifiers go through. You said it, I think, it very early on when we started this, that every Derby winner needs a little luck. They need plenty of it, loads of it. So, and it's going to come down to who's lucky enough. So, best luck to everyone. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, it's on terrestrial TV on Saturday night, of course. Virgin Media 2 will be showing it. Ivan Yates will be hosting the programme. Should be a great night's occasion. So if you can't get to Sheldon Park, please tune in. And we are hoping for clean racing. Certainly on terrestrial TV, we're hoping for very clean racing on the outside. We want all these dogs to come off safe and well and to battle it out another day because they're a very special group. But that's it from us on this Monday evening. We have been talking about the BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby. We'll continue to talk about it for some time to come, I'm sure, but that's it for the moment. The very best of luck to each and every runner in the Derby, to their connections, to those that have anti-post vouchers, nobody here included. May luck be on your side. But that's it from us on this Monday. We'll see you next time.